Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thank you, Sumanvindu Prabhu. Thank you, Devrata Prabhu, for allowing me to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. I seek your blessings and all the devotees who are present online, and so that I can glorify Srimad Bhagavatam in the mode of Guru Param. Thank you. We are continuing our reading of Canto 1, Chapter 16, text number 2, text number 3, 116.3. The chapter is entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. Please repeat after me. Text 3, 116.3. Ajaharashvamedham strin Gangayam bhuri dakshina Sharadvatam gurum kritva Devayatrakshi gochara Ajaharashvamedham strin Gangayam bhuri dakshina Sharadvatam gurum kritva Devayatrakshi gochara Ajaharashvamedham strin Gangayam bhuri dakshina Sharadvatam gurum kritva Devayatrakshi gochara. Thank you. One chanter. Anybody chant in person or online? Dev Ajaharashvamedham strin
Gangayam Buridakshinan
Gangayam bhuri dakshinan
Sharadvatam Guru Kritva
Devaya Rakshi Gocharaha.
Devaya Rakshi Gochara.
Thank you. Word for word, input which is mind related with Swami Prabhupada. Ajahara
Ajahara performed
Ashwamedhan
Ashwamedhan
horse sacrifices.
horse sacrifice.
Trin three
Three
Gangayam
Gangayam,
the bank of the Ganges.
the bank of the Ganges.
Bhuri
Bhuri
sufficiently.
sufficiently.
Dakshinan
Dakshina
rewards.
reward.
Sharadvam
Sharadvatam
unto Kripacharya.
unto Kripacharya.
Gurum
Guru
spiritual master.
spiritual master.
Kritva having
Kritva
selected. Deva the demigods. Yatra wherein. Akshi eyes. Gochara within the purview. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance as his spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants. And at these sacrifices, even the common man could see demigods. Purport. It appears from this verse that interplanetary travel by the denizens of higher planets is easy. In many statements in Bhagavatam, we have observed that the demigods from heaven used to visit this earth to attend sacrifices performed by influential kings and emperors. Herein also we find that during the time of the horse sacrifice ceremony of Maharaj Parikshit, the demigods from other planets were visible even to the common man due to the sacrificial ceremony. The demigods are not generally visible to common men, as the Lord is not visible. But as the Lord, by his causeless mercy, descends to be visible to the common man, similarly, the demigods also become visible to the common man by their own grace. Although celestial beings are not visible to the naked eyes of the inhabitants of this earth, it was due to the influence of Maharaj Parikshit that the demigods also agreed to be visible. The kings used to spend lavishly during such sacrifices, as a cloud distributes rains. A cloud is nothing but another form of water, or, in other words, the waters of the earth transform into clouds. Similarly, the charity made by the kings in such sacrifices are but another form of the taxes collected from the citizens. But as the rains fall down very lavishly and appear to be more than necessary, the charity made by such kings also seems to be more than what the citizen needs. Satisfied citizens will never organize agitation against the king, and thus there was no need in changing the monarchical state. Even for a king like Maharaj Parikshit, there was need of a spiritual master for guidance. Without such guidance, one cannot make progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master must be bona fide, and one who wants to have self-realization must approach and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to achieve real success. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. We seek blessings of His Grace Vijay Prabhu and all the Sunday devotees. Hare Krishna. So, in this verse, first of all, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the denizens of the heaven were visible even during a fire sacrifice ceremony on the earthly planets. We don't see them these days because we don't have kings like Parikshit Maharaj. If we would have kings like Parikshit Maharaj, the denizens would agree to come and visit. Then there won't be any confusion that there is life on another planet. So this is the horse sacrifice. There are 3 horse sacrifices. It was meant for establishing the ruler, the position of the emperor of the entire world. So this horse will go all over the world, and every king on the land has to submit to the emperor, to the person who is organizing this horse sacrifice. And later on, when if somebody says no to accept subordination to this emperor, then there would be a fight. So either by you submit yourself to the horse, offer some gifts, offer your tributes, and you accept subordination, or you have to fight the person who is organizing the horse sacrifice. So this horse will go all over the earth, and then later on there will be a horse sacrifice in which the horse is actually sacrificed, but he will get a new life by the power of the mantras. So that was the potency of the priests, that they could give a new life to this horse. So Maharaj Parikshit, not only once, he did it thrice to show that he was capable of ruling the entire earth. So we see that in the last chapter, when Pandavas retire, Yudhishthir gives the throne to Maharaj Parikshit, and he goes to the north towards the Himalayas. So Maharaj Parikshit wanted to be a qualified ruler. He did not want to just accept the kingdom for the sake of accepting. He wanted to establish that he was capable of ruling the kingdom. So that's why he organized not only 1, but 3 horse sacrifices. It is said that if you want to really put your point, then it is repeated 3 times. So not only once, he showed it 3 times that nobody was able to challenge him throughout the earth. So he did 3 horse sacrifices. We were on book distribution on Monday at Sac State, myself and Suvan Bindu Prabhu. There was one Christian boy who came, and he was asking very nice questions. So he read Bhagavad Gita, one particular translation where Krishna is showing the universal form, and there are many demigods which are there in the universal form. So Arjuna is saying Adityas, he's saying Ashwini Kumaryas, he's saying Lord Shiva. So this boy, he asked me this question. So do you believe in many gods? I said, no, we believe in monotheistic. There's one God, but he has many empowered representatives. I gave him the example of the US president, just like he has a cabinet to take care of the different duties in the state, in the nation. So similarly, Supreme God has a cabinet of empowered representatives, and they are known as demigods. He said he was satisfied, but then he asked, so do you worship these demigods? We said, I mentioned him that we offer them respect, but we do not worship them as the absolute gods. They are relative gods, and there is absolute God. So even us, we have some control over our own body or some subordinates. In a house, the father has control over the children. He is God in one sense because he has controllership. but he is not absolute God. Absolute God means, absolute truth means one who is not controlled by anyone else. So he was satisfied by that answer. And I was thinking maybe I can read this little bit on idolatry that is given in Bible. Idolatry is defined as the worship of anything or anyone other than the one true God. It involves giving reverence, trust, or devotion to something or someone that is not God, effectively placing that entity in the place of God in one's life. This can manifest in various forms. This is interesting now. This can manifest in various forms, including the worship of physical idols, the pursuit of material wealth, or the excessive love of worldly pleasures, all of which detract from the true and proper relationship with God. So, in principle, it is the same which we hear in Nectar of Instruction by Rupa Goswami. He says, Atyahara prayasasya. If we become greedy to collect money or we over endeavor for worldly pleasures, that actually destroys devotion to God. And then if we put anybody else in place of God, so many times it's called asat sanga, atyahara prayasasya prajalpo niyamagraha jan sangasya lolyam ja. Jan sangasya means association with worldly men who are not interested in God consciousness or Krishna consciousness. So these physical idols or persons are those people who are not following God. Actually, there are many celebrities that we worship them. In India, cricket is called a religion, and Sachin Tendulkar is known as God. I have no idea. Yeah, so that is one of the famous player in cricket. It's a sport game. Similarly, here we have many famous players who are worshipped. Maybe Messi. I don't know if LeBron James in which basketball. So when we place them as worshipable deities, and we forget our relationship with God, that is more idolatry. I would say that is more idolatry because they are taking place of our relationship with God. But when we have relationship with these demigods as servants of God, that is not a hindrance to our relationship with God. So one has to see these demigods in the right perspective. How are they connected with Krishna? Recently, we had last Saturday we had Hanuman Jayanti, or the appearance day of Lord Hanuman. So many temples, people were going and visiting and offering obeisances to Hanumanji. So there could be two motives. One person may worship Hanuman to get material desires fulfilled, because Hanumanji removes obstacles in one way or the other. It is said that he helped Lord Ram in winning Mother Sita and getting back Mother Sita. So similarly, he can help us in our material pursuits. That is something called idolatry, because I am forgetting my relationship with Krishna and I'm using this person just to fulfill my material desires. The second way to worship Hanuman could be as a devotee of Lord Ram. How I can follow in the footsteps of Hanuman to develop my mood of surrender and service towards Lord Ram. Such kind of understanding of Lord Hanuman is in alignment with Bhagavad Gita, is in alignment with any tradition, any spiritual tradition. So if we have this clear understanding, then we will understand what the other person is coming from when we hear these accusations. Oh, you have so many idols, you have so many deities. So one has to understand that is it harming my relationship with God, or is it bringing me closer to God or Krishna? So that is the first point I wanted to mention here, that in this fire sacrifice, there were many demigods which were coming, but they were seen in the right perspective by Maharaj Parikshit. He was worshipping them because they are part and parcels of Krishna. Every living entity is worshipable, but in alignment with Krishna, understanding their position in relationship with Krishna. Yesterday we heard from His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, Kamais Taistarit Jnana Prapadyantyana Devta. Those people who are blinded by material desires, they surrender to other demigods. So if we have, our motive is Ananya Bhakti, unalloyed devotion, then we can worship these demigods in the mood of developing love for Krishna. Just like Lord Chaitanya visited the temple of Kashi Vishwanath or Lord Shiva. He offered his obeisances to Lord Shiva, and then he chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Or the gopis, they worshipped Mother Durga or Katyayani, so that they can they can become wives of Lord Krishna. So that kind of reverence or worship of the demigods is in alignment with pure devotional service. Secondly, in this purport, Prabhupada mentions about the king distributing the money collected as taxes back to the citizens. So, because Maharaj Parikshit was trained as a politician, as a diplomat, he knew how to utilize these taxes in benefit of the citizens. So, if the king is trained how to do benefit, how to do welfare activities, he knows how to utilize these funds for the benefit of the public. And he does not spend these in other pursuits which are detrimental for the progress of human civilization. We see now government have so many projects where they're spending their money. Yesterday, I think Devrata Prabhu was mentioning that when there was Biden, Joe Biden, he spent $4 million of taxpayers' money for research into transgenders.
Transgender habits among mice.
Transgender habits among mice. Mouse, yeah. So it, according to Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, it does not feel like something which is for the advancement of human civilization, because it is related to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Human civilization begins after that. Yesterday, from His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, somebody asked this question. You are listening this that we do not see devotees as the best in the field in material world. Maharaj was putting a point that if a person becomes a devotee, not only he progresses spiritually, but he becomes very expert in his material duties. Just like Arjuna became a great fighter after listening to Bhagavad Gita, Maharaj Parikshit, he listened to Bhagavatam, but he was a great emperor, and so you do not lose on your material abilities by becoming a devotee. So somebody asked this counter question that today we have many devotees, but they are not rulers, or they are not controlling the world. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj mentioned that your frame of reference is only Kali Yuga. In earlier ages, when there were people who were religious, most of the population was religious, that time the rulers of the world were also devotees. But in Kali Yuga, we see that the world is in a chaotic situation. There is so much. Recently, there was shooting here in a couple of weeks ago, as I heard. So there's so much chaos. When we were driving, I saw a big advertisement of a firearm. So anybody can shoot anybody at any time. There's no safety, there's no security, actually. And Maharaj was mentioning, Radhanath Maharaj, that many places in US, people are addicted to drugs. So in New York especially, he was mentioning that there are many parts of New York where people are addicted to drugs. So are we looking to become rulers of this kind of civilization? because this civilization is only promoting breaking the 4 regulatory principles: meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication. So devotees may not want to become the ruler of such a world. So that's why we don't see them as controlling the world, because this is Kali Yuga. Even though we are minority, Maharaj says, be a part of solution, not the problem. So similarly, here we see that Maharaj Parikshit, if the ruler is trained in Bhagavad Dharma, in God consciousness, he knows how to spend the funds of the public in their benefit. Thirdly, it is mentioned about accepting a bona fide spiritual master. So Maharaj Parikshit, in order to perform these fire sacrifices, he accepted Kripacharya as his spiritual master. I was thinking about this topic while we were doing Mangalarti. So what are the qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master? They are explained in our morning program, written by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, 8 prayers in glorification of Guru. So the first prayer itself is that Samsara Dava Nalali Loka, that the whole world is like a forest fire. There are threefold miseries. Miseries for the body, mind, intelligence. There are miseries from other living entities. There are miseries from natural disturbances. But the spiritual master, he's like a cloud of rain. When by his mercy, all these miseries are destroyed, just like the rain from a cloud extinguishes the forest fire. So a guru's mercy destroys all those threefold misery in the life of a aspiring devotee. I also heard in one of the classes that our life is like a lotus. This lotus needs cooling water. It has to be in the pond, and then it needs the sun rays. Then it can bloom nicely. So these waters are compared to the mercy of Guru in terms of sadhana that we get. We get the sadhana of morning program. We chant 16 rounds. We follow 4 regulative principles. And the sun rays is like the service. We go out for book distribution. We preach. We cook. We clean. So many different service opportunities. So these service opportunities may become troublesome or cumbersome at times, but because we are in touch with our sadhana, that is like the cooling water. If we are dancing and chanting nicely in the morning program, if we are doing our rounds nicely, enthusiastically, if we are honoring prasadam, yesterday Devrata Prabhu prepared such a nice prasadam for us, and dosa and chutney and sambar. And the day before, parathas and paneer sabzi. So then this difficulty of going out for book distribution or sometimes meeting challenging situations or challenging people, it doesn't look difficult. Just like the lotus is in touch with water and receiving sun rays, then the lotus can bloom. If this lotus is out of the pond, but there is only sun rays, then the lotus will be scorched. On the other hand, if we only receive mercy and we don't go out and preach, then the lotus can't bloom, because we need that hardship. We need, just like the lotus needs the sun rays to bloom. So we need both in our life. We need to dance nicely in Mangalarti, chant Hare Krishna enthusiastically, honor Prasadam, have nice devotional exchanges with devotees, relationships. And this is like the cooling water, and we need to go out and do our service. So this is the role of Guru in our life. He gives us mercy in all these ways, and he also gives us service to Krishna. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shre Uttamam Shabde Paricha Nishnatam Brahmani Upashamashrayam. Therefore, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam one who is serious about progressing in life, he must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. If he is jignasu, if he is inquisitive, and he wants his ultimate good, Shreya Uttamam. And what is the qualification of that guru? Shabde pare cha nishnatam. Shabde means the absolute truth. Pare, the knowledge about Pare, the supreme. Shabde pare. Nishnatam means to take a dip. So one who has taken dip in transcendental knowledge about the Lord. Shabde pare cha nishnatam. Brahmani upashamashram. That he has taken shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and of the supreme by taking a dip in the transcendental knowledge. Such a spiritual master we should approach and take shelter of. Then we can also be protected from the threefold miseries and go back home, back to Godhead. I will stop here and I will open for any questions or reflections. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram,
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
I was thinking that this point of how Maharaj Parikshit wanted to show he was qualified to be king before he actually, and also in the pastimes of Prithu Maharaj, these bards are glorifying. Actually, they're sages, but I'm just using the word bard because it kind of carries over in English in terms of what their activity was. They're glorifying the activities of Parikshit Maharaj before he actually performed them. And Parikshit Maharaj says, this is nice, but I haven't done anything yet. And that makes them glorify him even more. There's a whole chapter of them just glorifying him even more. But he says, I haven't done anything, so it's not good to praise me before anything's been done. And then Maharaj Parikshit is kind of qualifying himself to be king. And then also Yudhishthira Maharaj, he qualified himself for the Rajasuya Yajna to show that I'm qualified to be the king. So it's interesting how there's this element of one is able to introspect for themselves and then see if they're qualified, and then also display how they're qualified before actually taking that responsibility. So sometimes we could see that people, due to ambition or people due to whatever reason, they choose to take on a position of leadership, or maybe they're put into a position of leadership, but there's no system of kind of displaying their qualification. Of course, we should give people opportunities, but simultaneously, the person themselves should be able to see, am I qualified for taking this responsibility? And there should be some means of doing it. How that's done in Kali Yuga, I would be interested to hear from the devotees, how a leader kind of shows they're qualified before taking on responsibility, because there's a lot of talk about kind of like human resources management in ISKCON right now for bringing in leaders and training them. But how does a leader qualify themselves to kind of gain the trust of the people they're leading? Because we see in materialistic society, none of the leaders are showing how they're qualified. Actually, most of the time, they're showing how they're extremely disqualified, but then they, through power, politics, and money, they're able to come to a position of power, and then they just create so much anxiety in the life of the citizens. So anyways, I would be interested to hear what you have to say. How can someone now in Kali Yuga have a Rajasurya sacrifice or Ashvamedha Yajna or whatever it may be to kind of show that they're qualified? Or even Maharaj Prithu, he did the 100 horse himself. It became 99. Anyways, point is, how do leaders display their qualification before actually taking on a position of responsibility
Hmm.
in this age.
Thank you. Thank you for your reflections. So, if I understand you right, your question is in context of politics, in the
Not
political
necessarily-
leadership.
Not necessarily politics, even like obviously the leaders in society are not qualified, and it's a bit beyond our sphere of influence. But I would say within ISKCON, there could be something which is done, because that's within our sphere of influence. So I'm thinking more in terms of devotee circle, because yeah, we can speak about society at large, but I don't see where we're at that point yet.
Yeah.
Even institutionally in ISKCON, there's so many things which need to kind of develop before we can begin to have an influence on the government. It's possible. The Mormon Church is evident of that in Utah. But we aren't at a position institutionally, at least in North America, to kind of influence the government. So we should be thinking more in terms of how are we preparing for that position by creating systems now to train leaders, and simultaneously leaders taking on or introspecting to see if with integrity to see if they're actually qualified, and then doing something to kind of show their qualification.
Yeah, very nice question. How we can do at the level of ISKCON, because that's where in our sphere of influence, as you rightly mentioned. So in Hindi there is a proverb. It means that it says that it goes like this, that for just like a fruit doesn't fall farther from a tree, right? It's what is it is similar. So when we see those qualities actually exhibited in a person, we'll see that in a younger age itself, if a person is qualified to be leader. And of course, Maharaj Parikshit and all these kings, they were trained from the childhood to be the kings. So we can train our youth, our next upcoming generation, in all these qualities of leadership, where they can be a great example for others. So unless one has a good character, he cannot lead others. So that is itself the qualities of a guru. Prabhupada says being a guru is not so difficult. It's very easy. Prabhupada said many times, one has to hear from a bona fide spiritual master, one has to follow and apply this in his life, and one has to pass on to the next person without making any changes. So Prabhupada puts it in a very simple way. Bhakti is simple, but it's not easy. So if we train these youth in hearing Bhagavatam nicely, in chanting nicely, and help them in this process, then they can become very good examples for the next generation. So we see that in ISV, that so many youth are trained practically before even they come out of the womb, because the Matajis are already reading Bhagavatam even before the kid takes birth. So after they take birth, there are classes from zero age actually in Vedic Academy in ISKCON of Silicon Valley, from 0 to 20. There are different age groups. So they are trained from the beginning to read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to hear the stories of these great kings, to hear the stories of Dhruv Maharaj. We are doing a series of Dhruv Maharaj in our Saturday morning classes by Kaishora group. So these people who are trained from the beginning, they can become a good leader for the future. So I would recommend that. Such people can exhibit those qualities that they have heard nicely from their superiors, they have applied it throughout their life, and then they can guide the next generation.
That's an interesting point. That's good.
Hare
I also have, as you mentioned, yes. Yes, they mentioned that business in constitutional concept, it becomes even better business. or the leader, he becomes better leader, better kshatriya, better everything better. So what this better means? Does it mean that he becomes like more materially influential, or he becomes more kind of acting in the mode of goodness? Well, simultaneously, at least in my case, and I've seen in others, once you become Krishna conscious, you kind of a little bit lose interest in, corporate things, mundane education. Actually, it happens to many people in India, in West, pretty much everywhere. So what's wrong with them?
Nice. So if I understand you right, in our class, we discussed His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj saying that anybody who becomes a devotee, he not only improves spiritually, but in material life also. What does that improvement mean? Because many of the devotees lose interest in material endeavors, be it studies or be it corporate world or any kind of material endeavors. So what does that improvement mean? So my understanding is that Maharaj was telling about mode of goodness, that a person performs his duty in the mode of goodness and he is not attached to the results anymore. If it is his duty to perform a particular material activity, he does it in the mode of service to Krishna. For example, we have the story of Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He was a manager in Pepsi, I think one of the multinational companies, when he came in touch with Srila Prabhupada. So he started chanting, he started practicing four regulative principles. He was already practicing four regulative principles. He was from a very cultured family in Canada. He met Prabhupada in Montreal. So he lost his interest in material endeavors. He wanted to go and join the temple, wanted to be with Prabhupada, but he had his family life. He was married, Gopal Krishna Goswami. So his name was Gopal Krishna, I think. That was his birth name, as far as I remember. So he wrote a letter to Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, I am a karmi. I earn money in the material world. I am a karmi, I am not a devotee. So there's a quote where there's a letter where Srila Prabhupada replies in back that you are not a karmi, you are utilizing the money in the service of Krishna. You are better than a sannyasi. So in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, chapter 6, text 1, Anashita karma phalam karyam karma karotiya sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragni na chakriya. A person who is not dependent on the results of his activities, ana ashrita. Ashrita means to take shelter. Anashrita means to not take shelter. Anashrita karma phalam, to the fruits of one's own karma. Karyam karma karoti, but he still performs his duty because that is his prescribed duty. So Gopal Krishna Maharaj was in a family life. It was his duty that time to take care of the family. At the same time, he was giving Lakshmi to the temple. Sa sannyasi cha yogi cha. Such a person is actually sannyasi or yogi. Na niragnir na chakriya. Not a person who lights no fire or performs no work. So my understanding is that they are still doing their duty, material duty, but the results they give it to Krishna. We also know a story of Prabhupada disciple in Berkeley who would give all his salary from the taxi. He was driving a taxi. Jayanand Prabhu, thank you. Yeah. So when he became a devotee, he wanted to join the movement, join the temple full-time brahmachari, but Prabhupada said, no, you continue driving the taxi and give all the money to the temple. So because of his donations, they did the first Rath Yatra in Berkeley, in San Francisco, Golden Gate Park. It's still going on for more than 50 years. So his picture is always there. Jayanand Prabhu, he left before Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said that his disappearance should be celebrated as a Vaishnava disappearance. Still, till this date, we have this in BBT calendar. So yeah, Prabhu, that is my understanding. They might not be interested in material life, but whatever endeavors they are doing, they do it to please Krishna. We also have this example of Ambarish Das, the descendant of Henry Ford, Alfred Ford. He is still working. He's doing his work expertly in the material life. Now he's retired, of course, but he's giving all the donations to build this TOVP. So there's many such examples. There's an example of a brahmachari who married later on in Chopati temple, and he was working for an IT company. Was getting 25 years ago, he was getting 8,000 rupees per month. Out of that, he was donating 2,000 rupees to the temple, and he was not happy. He mentioned to His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj that this company is getting 40,000 rupees because of my work, but I'm only receiving 8,000 and I'm able to donate only 2,000. I'm not satisfied. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj said, so what do you want to do? So that devotee said, I want to start my own company. So then I will give everything to Krishna, whatever I get. So Maharaj said, okay, don't give everything, give 50%. You make Krishna as your partner. And then this person, the devotee, he was asking, in the mood of loving exchanges, he was asking, so Maharaj, I will work for the company, but if Krishna is my partner, he should also bring something on the table, right? What is he going to do? We are partners. So Radhanath Maharaj said, you just start, you will see what he will do. So he started a company, and he became one of the most successful devotees, entrepreneurs. And I heard this story from Achyut Mohan Prabhu that he has donated more than 200 CR into, or what do we say, 20
crores.
Yeah, which is 20, no.
Anyways, we understand what crores are.
Yeah, 200 crores of rupees to ISKCON. So there are examples of those people, Prabhu, who expertly navigate in material world, and there are people who drop out, but that's also good for them. Some people just lose interest in material life, and then they give themselves fully to Krishna. So maybe that is what is Krishna's plan, and that's how they contribute to the movement. Yes, Prabhu.
There's an interesting point in Sridhar Swami's commentary in Bhagavatam regarding this point. He says that if someone before their activity decides this is all for Krishna, then it's considered pure devotion. But if they perform the activity and they say, okay, here you go, Krishna, it's not considered pure devotion. Another point about Gopal Krishna Maharaj, I heard from a devotee that he was giving everything to the temple. Like everything he had at the temple. And then he would go and ask, have a little bit for my family. Just a little bit. So that standard is quite high for many people. But I have seen that, like this Jagat Trata, I'm noticing, Jagat Trata Prabhu, when he moved out of the ashram, he made a vow that 25% of whatever he earns will give to our youth preaching. And he's sticking to it. And I can see that Krishna is, it's not because he's giving to us, but he's sticking to that vow, and I can see that Krishna is really taking care of him. Like, I really don't see him being materially unfortunate in terms of like having facility, because he's made that vow that I'm giving 25%, and I can see that Krishna's taking care of him because that's in his heart, and I'm pretty sure he's giving to other people as well. So because he's really depending on Krishna in that regard, despite the fact, he has desires to kind of interact with the world in a particular way, then still he understands that it's all for Krishna, I need some for my personal maintenance, but I want to serve the mission.
Hmm.
So Krishna reciprocates.
Yeah, beautiful. So decide before you actually perform the activity.
Yeah.
That's the most important point from this class today.
Yeah.
We'll stop here because it's already 8:30.
Yes.
Thank you, dear devotees, for joining on the morning session. Vancha kalpataru. Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Grace Kautukarnav Prabhu ki jai.
Grace Vijay Prabhu ki jai. Assembled devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.